In today's video, I'm going to be revealing how you can get an IT management degree in as little as 6 months. Yes, this is a Bachelor of Science in IT Management, and you can get it in as little as 6 months using the strategies and the tactics that I'm going to reveal in this video. And this is going to be at a legit top 10% regionally accredited, industry respected school. Now, the particular school that I'm going to be talking about in this case is going to be WGU, or Western Governors University. There are a few other schools that you can use these methods that I'm going to be revealing in this video at, and I will talk about that later in the video. Now, this is something that until recently I didn't reveal to anybody except my paid consulting clients, because the process is relatively complicated and I thought I could only get people to do it the correct way if I could consult with them one-on-one. But recently I did a few videos on this process. People absolutely loved it and I got a ton of requests, so I decided to make this series where I show you how you can get some really good degrees in a short period of time. And not only am I going to break it down step by step, but I also actually made a cheat sheet that is going to break it down even further and make this whole process ridiculously simple. And I'm going to put the cheat sheet down in the description as well as the pinned comment below. So if you appreciate me going above and beyond doing all this research and making it as easy as possible for you, probably saving you hundreds of hours and maybe tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, go ahead, gently tap that like button and let's jump into it right now. All right, so this is going to be a 4-step process and you don't want to skip any of the steps. You want to make sure you spend your time at each of the steps. Step number 1 and step number 3 are steps that I see people skipping all the time, and they're actually really important. So you don't want to skip those steps, and make sure you do everything I say in this video exactly as I say it step by step. So the very first step in this process sounds super simple, and that is you are going to go ahead and transfer in your existing credits and your existing experience to a school like WGU. Now, one of the great things about WGU is they're extremely gracious about what they accept. Besides accepting the usual stuff like college credit, high school credit like AP, IB classes, also certifications, CLEP exams, etc. That's all the usual stuff that colleges should accept. On top of that, they also accept things like work experience and military experience in some cases. So make sure you get all of your experience, your resume, your transcript, etc. together and send that into WGU and talk to the counselor. And I think you are going to be shocked at how many credits you can actually transfer in if you use these methods. So for instance, this person right here was able to transfer in 57 credit units. So make sure you take your time at this step. Also, one thing I'll note here is the counselors at WGU are great, but they are going to try to get you to enroll at this point. And that's something you don't want to do if you're using these methods. In fact, you're not going to enroll in WGU until step number 4. So once you've transferred them in, you're going to get a list of classes that you still need to take back. And then you're going to move on to step number 2. And this is the most important step. And that is you are going to test out of many of the remaining classes using third-party companies. Now, this is the step where all the magic happens. And the reason you're going to be using third-party companies instead of WGU themselves is simply because they're faster, cheaper, and easier. Now, for this particular degree, the Business Administration of IT Management degree, you are going to have to take about 40 classes. And you can very easily, even if you're super busy, you've got a family, and you're working a full-time job, knock out about 1 class per week using third-party companies like study.com. And if you're not so busy, you can do a lot more than that. So I've had students, for instance, knock out 1 class per day, sometimes even more than that. Now, the 3 third-party companies that I recommend, and I actually recommend them in this order, are going to be study.com, sophia.org, and then straighterline.com. There are others out there, but those are the 3 that I've had the best experience with. And by the way, if you're skeptical of this, there are literally tons of reviews and testimonials online of people that have done very similar processes to this. So I definitely understand if you're skeptical of it. I mean, it does sound pretty crazy that you're able to graduate with a legitimate degree in, sometimes a year or even less. It's completely legit, but with that being said, make sure you always do your own research. For instance, here's an example of someone who is able to complete this degree in 4 months and 28 days. Now, one thing I will say is a lot of people will sort of use different like random strategies where they take certain classes at study.com, certain classes at Sophia, certain classes at Straighterline. Sometimes they even take classes elsewhere. Now, to be honest with you, this sort of thing changes all the time, how hard the classes are and that sort of thing. And I've just had the best experience overall with study.com and then sophia.org. But if you want to get really fancy, there are like guides and stuff out there where you can, save yourself a few hours here and there, taking them on the different websites. Now, this entire process is going to be made stupidly easy because I made a cheat sheet, and you can check this out down in the description and the pinned comment below. It maps out the exact classes at WGU with the exact classes you can take at study.com, and it just makes the entire process super easy. You don't really have to research, you don't have to figure out which class goes to which other class. You can just click on it and it takes you straight there. And I'm actually gonna jump into that spreadsheet here in a few minutes and take you through the entire process step by step and give you an example. Now, once you've tested out of all the different classes that you can test out of using study.com or sophia.org, go ahead, transfer them all in, and then you're gonna move on to step number 3, which is you are going to pre-study the remaining classes. Now, this is a step that a lot of people skip, and I don't recommend skipping it. And the reason for that is because when you enroll in a school like WGU, you're gonna typically pay per term. And each term is 6 months, and it costs around $3,500. So you want to try to knock out as many classes as you can from the moment you enroll so that you can ideally finish in 1 to 2 terms max. Now, in extreme cases, people are able to finish in way less than 1 term when they enroll in WGU, so that's less than 6 months. Now, my recommendations for pre-studying the classes go like this. First of all, you want to go ahead and look up the specific degree on the WGU subreddits. There's a lot of different WG subreddits, and they typically will have a specific degree. Now, depending on how popular the degree is, sometimes there will be a ton of people on that subreddit. And what they do is they share tips and tricks. They also share how you can study for classes efficiently and pass the tests as fast as possible. So you're gonna know which tests are difficult, which tests are easy, which ones you have to score really high on, which ones you can kind of just get away with studying a little bit. And this saves you an insane amount of time and effort when it comes to figuring out what the best way to study for a class is and then passing the test as fast as possible. So definitely make sure you leverage this resource. Another great resource is the Facebook groups for WGU. There's like a WGU Accelerators Facebook group. Sometimes there are specific Facebook groups for the WGU degree as well. Definitely check those out. Those are super helpful. It's also a little bit better for networking because you see an actual like human being on there, whereas Reddit is probably just, you know, squiggly puff 84 or something. So that can be kind of nice too. And then of course, there's a ton of other free resources online. You've got YouTube, Google, Khan Academy is great. You can download free textbooks online, or you can buy like relatively cheap ones, or you can order a physical textbook if that is your thing. Also, sometimes in the WGU subreddit and the Facebook group, they will have Quizlets. So they'll actually create Quizlets to help you with the different classes. So definitely leverage those resources. Now, once you feel confident about your knowledge and you've studied for these classes, you're gonna go ahead, move on to step number 4, which is you're gonna enroll in WGU and knock out the classes as fast as you can. And again, the goal here is going to be 1 term, but I understand if you're super busy, you've got a family, full-time job, etc., you might need to take 2 terms for this degree. But that's still incredible. There's tons of testimonials from people who have finished this degree in less than a year, and typically an American bachelor's degree is going to take 5.1 years on average. So this saves you a ton of time, effort, and money, not to mention the fact that you don't need to move across the country, you don't need to quit your job, you can do it in your free time on the side. And probably the most important thing that it saves you that nobody ever thinks about is opportunity cost. During the same time, those 5 years that somebody else is taking the degree, you are going to be actually making money for 4 of those 5 years. So while they are going into debt, you're going to be actually making money. So here's one person again, there's like tons of these testimonials online. They were able to finish this degree in 6 months, so that's 1 term. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the cheat sheet, and I'm gonna show you step by step exactly what this process would look like and how you can do this yourself. All right, so as you see here, this is the cheat sheet for the WGU BS in Business Administration IT Management degree. So I'll quickly go over kind of how you can use it and some housekeeping stuff. So first of all, if you want to do this process for yourself, you're just gonna go ahead and do File and Make a Copy. So that will allow you to edit it and put in all of your information. So on the far left here, this column is the class ID. So that's basically the ID to look up the class at WGU. This second column here is going to be the name of the different classes at WGU. The third column is the amount of units in each class. So typically it's going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then this fourth column is the most important one. These are the classes that you can take at WGU. So just to kind of make this really simple, English Composition 1, if if you take English 104 at study.com, which is class number 0057, that will transfer in for English Composition 1. And if you want to be taken directly to the class, just so that you don't make any mistakes by accident, you just click there and it will take you directly to the class at study.com. Now, also this is color coded, and generally speaking, the green classes are going to be relatively easy. The yellow classes are a little more difficult, and then the red classes are going to be the most difficult ones. But that's just generally speaking. And to be honest with you, with this degree, it's not super hard, but there are some classes that are definitely going to be harder than others. So we're going to go ahead and start with step number 1, which is you would transfer in your existing classes. So we'll go down here to this tab. And as you see here, I just marked out the classes that you would transfer in. This is of course just an example, but let's just say, for example, you took calculus in high school, AP calculus, and then you also took AP biology in high school. So you're able to transfer those two in. And then you took one semester at community college where you took art, sociology, and economics. So you were able to transfer those in as well. Now, one thing I will say is don't worry too much if you aren't able to transfer too many of the classes in. Like let's say, you haven't taken any community college, you're not able to transfer them in. That's not a big problem because it's probably only going to set you back maybe a week or so. So now we're going to move on to the next phase, which is the test out phase. This is the most important step. And this is basically where you're going to take all of these classes at study.com, Straighterline, or sophia.org. So this is going to save you an insane amount of time, effort, and money if you're able to do this. So definitely don't skip this step. And as you can see, you can take a ton of the classes using study.com. Like it's pretty amazing how many classes you can take. Clearly over half of the classes that you have to take, you can just knock them out using study.com. So once you have taken those in, you would move on to phase number 3, where you would pre-study these remaining classes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It looks like there's only 12 classes remaining out of the 40 that you originally had to take. So you actually were able to transfer in over 75% of the classes to WGU before you've even enrolled, right? So at this point, you would go ahead and pre-study these remaining classes using the resources that I recommended before. And when you feel confident, you would go ahead, contact your counselor, and you would enroll in WGU and move on to step number 4, which is knock those classes out as fast as you possibly can. So again, especially with this degree, it's very doable in one term. And if you're extremely busy, you can definitely do it in 2 terms. There are some degrees out there where it's almost impossible to do it in 1 term, or it's very difficult to do it, but this is one of the easier ones, I'd say. So at this point, you would move on to the next step, which is you'd brag to all of your friends and family and Facebook and Instagram and everyone that you were able to complete a bachelor's degree in less than a year. And then if you're nice, you will share this video with them so that they can do it as well, because this is a super cool university. Competency-based education is the future, and it's just really awesome that people have this opportunity. So don't keep it to yourself, share this video with other people. Now, one thing I will say, WGU is a phenomenal university, but there's 2 things I want to say really quickly about them. First of all, there are other competency-based universities, so definitely look into them. Another really good one, for instance, is TESU, which is Thomas Edison State University. Excelsior can be really good as well. Southern New Hampshire University can be good. And then the second thing I want to talk about is competency-based education is great and WGU is great, but it's not for everyone. So for instance, you are going to be doing this work remotely. So if you're not able to do work remotely, if you're not able to get things done because maybe it's really loud at your house or something like that, this may not be the best option for you. And I talk about all of these things, all of these 2 things that I just mentioned in this video right here. So I highly recommend checking that out to make sure that WGU is the right choice for you, or potentially finding a different university that's just as good.